We have reports that Nvidia is delaying its next AI chip, the Blackwell, due to a design flaw.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So today I want to take a closer look at some recent news we have seen for Nvidia, right? Like I mentioned over the weekend, we kind of saw this report that Nvidia is expectedly delaying its next AI chip due to design flaws. And if you have been watching this channel for many months now, you guys know that I've been very bullish in the company, but I'm not a perma bull. I've always said that there have been a few things that would make me understand why the price action would shift a little bit, and one of those reasons would be the overall complexity and the supply chain issues of Nvidia's chips, right? As they are getting bigger, more sophisticated, their supply chain is going to become very, very important, and that supply chain includes even things like TSMC's capacity solutions, and it seems like that's what's going to be impacting the stock within the next few months, where there are reports that because of some design flaws, there are going to be some issues with Nvidia shipping out its Blackwell platform. So right now, the kind of the bearish sentiment or this negative news is according to two unnamed sources, including a Microsoft employee that mentioned this to the information. And right now, this flaw was discovered unusually late in the production process. Now, we have heard from other news outlets that an Nvidia spokesperson came out to WCCF Tech to mention that, as we've stated before, Hopper demand is very strong. Broad Blackwell sampling has started, and production is on track to ramp in the second half. Beyond that, we don't comment on rumors. So based on this, it could seem one direction is saying that there's going to be major delays, about 3 months, which I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. The other side is, hey, look, things are still going in the direction we wanted to do. I mean, what do they say? There's always three sides of the story. There's their side, there's my side, and then there's the truth. And I think that's what's going to happen right now, that there is the truth that is somewhere in between, where there might be some delays, but it won't be a complete destruction of revenue. So it's going to be a mixture of both. And I do believe this could impact in the short term, maybe analyst projections on the stock and create a major negative sentiment for Nvidia. Luckily, like I mentioned, if you watch my episodes, you guys know that that has always been a big risk for me. And it's a big risk that I don't believe will lead to a major bearish thesis for Nvidia. Obviously, in the short term, it could impact things like revenue for the next few months. It can create this bearish sentiment, so it could definitely increase the bearish stock price movements that we have been seeing. But in the long term, at the end of the day, you have to guess, hey, is there any real competition to Nvidia's AI chips? If there is a 3-month delay, is anybody gonna catch up? And is this just a hiccup? And I don't believe anyone's gonna catch up, right? So for that reason, while it creates a short-term bearish thesis, it doesn't create a long-term bearish thesis, and the overall long-term bullish point for Nvidia is still there. I also want to mention is we did have Jensen talk at SIGGRAPH a few weeks ago, and he did mention that engineering samples of Blackwell were being shipped out, and he didn't seem concerned. We also have a very great semiconductor analyst, but they mentioned that in July 22nd, they sent out their update to hyperscalers, semiconductor, and investor clients that pay big money for this information. And within here, they mentioned a few things. First, they mentioned that they increased Hopper unit demand going forward and extended the life cycle of Hopper further into the first half of 2025, but lower H100 and H200 average selling price. The second thing that they mention is Blackwell. They have reduced the Blackwell supply significantly in the fourth quarter of 2024 and the first half of 2025 due to CoWoS-L ramp issues. So CoWoS-L ramp issues is that advanced packaging that TSMC does. And to me, Dylan and his team do amazing work. So I believe this is more the truth, right? It's a mixture of, hey, look, there is some form of delay on the chip because of an issue, but that issue isn't necessarily completely on Nvidia's part. It has something to do with TSMC's CoWoS L ramp issues. So that's going to create some delays. And it still kind of tells the truth of Nvidia that, hey, look, they're sampling and they're ramping out. So they're ramping up, but the numbers are not going to be probably as high as previously thought within the first few months. So I want to say this is probably closer to the truth. And like for me, Nvidia, you guys know it's a company I cover very, very drastic throughout this channel. And when the stock was sitting at 120s, 130s, even the 140s on the bull run up, I was getting hate because I was because I was discussing how, hey, look, it might not be a bad idea to kind of lock in some gains. We're seeing kind of this extreme bullish sentiment on the stock due to last earnings, due to the stock split. Now I believe I'm gonna get hate from the other side, where I don't believe this is necessarily game over for the stock, even though sentiment is gonna look like that. So I think now I'm gonna get that bearish sentiment that, hey, look, the stock is gonna go down forever, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. I really do believe that within the next few weeks, we're gonna continue to get buying opportunities for Nvidia. Now, I originally thought that last week, with all the big tech earnings from Amazon, from Meta, from Apple, from everybody that reported, it was gonna make Nvidia stock more calm. Unfortunately, I think now because of this news, the stock is going to be very volatile until we hear it during earnings, right? And this is going to be a topic of discussion during earnings because everybody's going to wonder, hey, who's right? Is there really a delay? What's happening? Maybe there's not a delay. I hope someone asks, there might not be a delay, but maybe ramp is starting a little bit later than expected. Not the ramp capacity is a lot lower than expected, like no delay, but maybe capacity constraints are a little bit higher. So I think that's what we're gonna need to listen to during the earnings call, and it's gonna be a huge topic of discussion. Depending on the answer, I do believe that's where we're really gonna dictate how the stock moves after earnings. The other thing that right now obviously seems very bearish is if we are hearing from Nvidia spokesperson, right, that they are not commenting on rumors and sampling has started and production is on track in the second half. And then we also had Jensen really kind of talk about how sampling and things were moving pretty well for Blackwell, yet Jensen is selling a lot of Nvidia shares. Obviously they're automatic, and compared to its overall position, it's not a lot. But when you start to add things up, I think if during earnings comes out and we do see that, hey, look, actually there is a delay, even though they had ample amount of time to give us the information that, hey, look, things are not as expected, then I do believe that's going to create even a more bearish sentiment towards the stock and more important towards management. So if any management is watching this for Nvidia, I don't believe that's the case. But if any management is watching this for Nvidia, as an Nvidia investor, I'm pretty sure as most Nvidia investors, please just come up with be honest with what's happening. Hey, look, if there is an issue, just tell us, hey, look, there's the supply chain issue that will impact us for a month or two. Nothing too drastic, as there's not real competition. We still have huge demands. We're not losing out on any orders or what's happening. And I think the market will react more positive than you think. So those are my overall thoughts. I don't believe in the long term this is going to be a bearish case for Nvidia. I do believe in the short term things can impact. Now I am kind of talking about the other side of the spectrum here for Nvidia, where when the stock was high, I was saying to be cautious in forms of valuation expansion, and that euphoria of stock prices can go up forever. Now I want to take the opposite approach. I think we're in the opposite end now, where many are expecting stock prices to continue to drop. While that may be true, I do believe we're getting closer to that other side of the end where maybe valuations start to become more stable. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know I did a little bit of rambling here, but again, I just wanted to share my overall thoughts on a topic that is definitely very, very crucial to a lot of investors. So let me know your overall thoughts. What do you think? Do you think Nvidia's right? Do you think these unknown sources are right? Or do you think it's more of somewhere between the middle like I discussed? Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.
Before we go any further, we are now on the road to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you all for the crazy support. So if you haven't and are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support the channel a little bit more, make sure to check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode.